Martha and I agreed it was time to return to our new lives. Martha wore a black traveling cloak over her unadorned gray dress for the long carriage ride back to Springfield. I had carefully wrapped a black crepe weeper around the hatband of my straw hat. And though custom dictated that I need not display my mourning on my sleeve for the death of a young sibling, such deaths being all too common, I had assured my family I'd wear a black armband for 6 more months. "It's not fair, Joshua," said Martha, after we had ridden for several hours, staring silently at the thickly forested countryside. Martha was barely 18, 6 years my junior, and the next youngest speed child to Anne. The death of our sister had affected her deeply. "No, it isn't. She was so sweet, so innocent, only 8 years of age. Why would God take her from us?" I raised my hands, palms facing the skies, and let them fall helplessly to my lap. Even now, what was there to say? The ride back to Springfield lasted only 6 days, but it spanned a lifetime. Martha and I told and retold our favorite stories about Anne, and we cried until it seemed we were out of tears. Gradually, the tears gave way to laughter. Anne would never be far from our hearts, but as we neared home, both of us felt ready to resume something like our normal lives again. Our effervescent little sister would have wanted it that way. Eventually we reached the vast prairie, awash with newly blooming flowers and freshly sprouted grasses that surrounded Springfield. That evening we stopped at the Shelbyville crossroads. There were few other persons about at the inn, and Martha and I had the bed to ourselves. At least, we did until I found sleep. Anne came to visit me that night. A tangible, achingly real vision of her. She was wearing her pea-green silk with a garland of yellow and white flowers encircling her forehead. If possible, she was even more beautiful in death than she had been in life. She reached her small arms around my neck in an embrace, and I smelled the honeysuckle in her hair. "Come chase me, Joshua," she giggled. And so I raced her through the fields of Farmington, weaving around sage-green stalks of hemp that reached to my shoulders and up and down grassy meadows until we collapsed together on the steep banks of the small, clear stream that cut through our plantation. I was awoken by a noise from the hallway. I could still feel Anne's soft touch as I stirred. I could still hear the music of her tongue. As I opened my eyes, I saw her rising from the bed and waving goodbye. "Anne, don't leave," I shouted. But it was to no avail. Beside me in bed, Martha startled into wakefulness, a strange, bewildered look on her face. I felt Martha's cool hand resting next to my warm skin. "You dreamt of her too?" said Martha. "Anne was in the schoolhouse in her yellow silk, and I was helping her learn her letters." She swallowed. "I suppose I never shall again." I smiled a bittersweet smile. "In the next world, perhaps. For this one, we'll have to rely upon one another." Chapter 1. The good citizens of Springfield had been waiting a long time for Old Man Evans to cross the great river to the next world, and in April, the week after Martha and I returned to town, he finally did. Evans had managed to outlive all of his nearby kin. Accordingly, there was no one around to take offense at the collective enthusiasm that accompanied his passing. Many men pronounced themselves glad that they would no longer encounter Evans in one of Springfield's many grog shops, lest the old man say something in his drunken state that might provoke a brawl, or worse yet, a duel. Meanwhile, the townswomen breathed a sigh of relief that they no longer had to instruct their daughters to make a wide detour around Evans on the muddy streets so as to avoid his lecherous tongue and leering eyes. But without question, the persons who welcomed Evans's death with the greatest excitement were all the real estate speculators, a group that counted nearly all of the professional and political men in town among its number. Evans had been one of the original settlers of Springfield, and he owned the last vacant plot of land bordering the town square. With the state capitol due to move to town next year, even now the outlines of the grand new Capitol building were starting to rise in the center of the square. Evans's prime property harbored untold riches. Evans's land was auctioned off on